Good morning, friends. Today we'll study lesson number 2 After 20 Years, written by O. Henry. His stories are famous for wordplay, realistic characteristics, and twist endings. This story is about two friends, Bob and Jimmy, who had promised to meet 20 years later at a particular time and place. The twist at the end of the story reveals how each friend lived up to the promise. One day, the policeman on his duty, walking confidently along the club street, he often stopped to check if the doors were properly locked or not on the peaceful road. There were few people on the road, still it was 10 o'clock at night. Hardly you find few shops with lights on. On the midway, suddenly the policeman stopped as he saw a man leaning against the hardware store. The policeman went to the man and spoke up quickly. The man said to the police officer that he is just waiting for a friend who made an appointment before 20 years, which sounds very funny to policeman. Well, he explains that 20 years ago there used to be a restaurant, Big Joe Brady's, and now it is a hardware store. The policeman said that it was torn down 5 years ago. The man slightly shifted to the neighboring store. He appears like a pale, squared jawed face with keen eyes, and he had a little white scar near his right eyebrow. His scarf pinned on oddly set with large diamond. He continued saying that 20 years ago he dined at Big Joe Brady's with Jimmy Well, my best friend and the finest person in the world. They both were grown in New York like two brothers. I was 18 and Jimmy was 20 years old. The next day, I was going towards the west part of the United States of America to make my money. And I am sure that Jimmy could not go out of New York. He thought that this is the only place on the earth. Well, we agreed that after 20 years, he would exactly meet on the same date and time, no matter of what might be the conditions or distance we have to come. No doubt which position we are and what we have earned. Policeman says, it sounds pretty interesting. Have you heard any time after you left? Well, we would write letters to each other for a year or two. But after that, it's not easy to keep up a track in a busy schedule. He said that Jimmy will definitely meet here if he is alive because he was always the truest and loyal person. He will never forget. I came from 1,000 miles to stand at this door tonight, and it would be worthy if my old friend also turns up. The man pulled out his watch to see the time on which the lid is set with small diamonds. 3 minutes to 10. It was exactly 10 o'clock when we parted at the restaurant door. The policeman asked the man, you did well in the West, I hope. The man said, even I hope Jimmy has done half as well. He was kind and a person who works slowly, but I have to compete with some of the sharpest minds to be successful. The policeman took a step or two and asked how long you will wait here for your friend. The man said, at least I'll wait for an hour. If he is alive, the time is enough for him to come. The time is so long. Good night, sir. I'll make a move. Knocking at the doors, the policeman left the place. The weather was cold, drizzling, falling, and wind was blowing. Few people on the road hurriedly, silently, with their hands in the pockets, and the collars of the coats were turned high. The man who came from 1,000 miles away was waiting patiently at the hardware store. He waited for 20 minutes. Meanwhile, a person in long coat came from the opposite side of the street. He asked, "Is that you, Bob?" The man at the doorway cried, "Is that you, Jimmy Wells? I was certain I would find you here if you were still alive. 20 years is a long time. The old restaurant gone. If not, we would have another dinner here." The man asked, "What did you do in the West?" "The West treated me well. It gave me whatever I asked," saying that, "Jimmy, you had changed a lot. I never thought you were so tall by 2 or 3 inches." He said, "I grew a bit in these 20 years and doing well in the New York. I have a position in one of the city departments. Come on, Bob, we'll go around to a place I know, and I have a good talk about old times." The two men were walking, the man from West boasting his success and history of his career, and the other listened quietly to him. At the corner, they both stood in a bright light, seeing each other's faces. Suddenly, the man West stopped and freed his arm, saying that, "You're not Jimmy Wells. In these 20 years, it's not possible to change a man's nose from a Roman to Puck. Sometimes changes a good man into a bad one," said the tall man. "You are under arrest, Bob. The Chicago police, thinking you may have come this way, and sent a telegram that you are a most wanted person. And before we go to the station, here is a note I was asked to give you. You may read it here at the window." The letter from Jimmy Wells to the Bob. "I was at the appointed place on time. When you shifted and the dim light fell on you, I saw it was the face of the man wanted in Chicago. Somehow I could not do it myself, so I went around and sent a policeman who is not in the uniform to do the job." As Bob read the note from the person, he realized that Jimmy Wells, his childhood friend, whom he had trusted completely and for whom he had risked his life and came thousands of miles, had actually got him arrested. He felt very disappointed and his hands trembled, and the person was taken to the jail with the person who was not in the uniform. Thank you.